Hello. We have a fascinating discussion coming up for you now. We've brought together some of the finest minds to share their expertise and unique perspectives on what a workshop of the future could be like.
The EV trend is clearly evident in China. So with monthly sales of EV penetration, it says already 50% since July this year. So that includes both BEV and hybrids. So we believe that the development of EV is expected to accelerate in China because of the changing customer behaviors, their attitudes towards EV, the local supply chain development, as well as a maturing EV charging ecosystem in China. We believe that the EV sales penetration in China will reach over 75% by 2030, with approximately roughly 45% being pure BEVs and roughly 30% plug-in hybrid of that. So as a result, the internal combustion engine car park has peaked in China. So currently, the EV share among the total 230 million passenger vehicle sales car park is still less than 15% this year, but it is projected to rise to 40% by 2030 and probably more than 65% by 2035. So this is a very dramatic structural changes to the aftermarket players in China.
The US is definitely a slower rate of change and maybe seems a little bit less linear in its progress, but it's still a really rapidly changing market. And I was in Texas talking with pickup truck owners, and they're kind of laughing at the idea of a hybrid or an electric truck. And now you look currently where I think the US is more than 20% of vehicles sold this year were EVs or hybrids. But that included, 15 to 20% of the F-150s sold were electrified or hybrid or electric vehicles. And so the customer perceptions of what hybrids or what electric vehicles are, I think, has shifted a lot in that time. And if you project out 10 more years, I think it'll be a very similar story where the perception and sort of how the market views hybrids and electric vehicles will continue to change quite rapidly, and we'll have EVs and hybrids as just a much deeper part of the market. Again, the progress may be a little less linear, a little back and forth with policy changes, but over that 5 to 10 year span, I think we'll continue to see really significant change in that. Workshops will have to evolve to meet customer expectations, that they see these vehicles and expect service around these vehicles in the same way they do for their technology products. And so things are expected to be really kind of just taking care of themselves much more. They're not expecting to have to deal with the hassles. And so even though in many ways vehicles are becoming increasingly complex and challenging to repair, the customer expectation is going in the opposite direction, and they're expecting things to be very easy and seamless and something that they don't really have to worry about.
So we can see here in China, so all these OEMs, along the way, they are doubling down on this technology or the autonomous driving strategy there for their powertrains, whether it is plug-in or hybrids or others, they try to make all this model more smarter. For those traditional aftermarket workshop, because of the increasing share of EV, so which implies a declining maintenance demand of EV models. So that meaning that the traditional aftermarket workshop have to adapt faster because of this changing underlying demand difference there. Also in the aftermarket touch points, they hope this a journey to be smarter and also to be more intelligent. I think the trends of digitalization and automation in all those lubricant aftermarket workshop is continuously strengthening and happening in China. So we can see that some chain stores that are adopting digital management systems to enhance the efficiency of store operations, inventory management, and customer management as well. So at the same time, some stores are also beginning to introduce more automated equipment to improve efficiency, such as kind of a self-service terminals and robots there to increase the overall service efficiency and also to reduce the labor cost. Because of course, a kind of series of the operational mechanism adjustment is also needed based on the digital transformation on the stores, along with a lot of new trainings for the management team and also for technical personnel as well. So which is also equally important to ensure that all this new technology can deliver a better efficiency and also deliver a better customer experience when the car owners come to the workshop.
I think the other really interesting thing here for me is we're sort of in this generational changeover in the workforce in the US. So a lot of the really skilled mechanics are starting to get older, maybe approaching retirement age. And when we go out and talk with folks, you hear some people who are looking at this next generation of vehicles and saying like, hey, I don't know if I sort of want to learn a whole bunch of these new skills, and maybe I'm just going to retire. And so there's bringing in a whole generation into this workforce, bringing them up in both the more traditional mechanical skills, but also a lot of these technology skills. And so I think that that is a couple interesting possibilities for the workshop of the future. I think one is thinking about how to reduce the complexity of repairs and the work that needs to be done. And so there's some interesting possibilities around what are we repairing versus what are we kind of replacing. And then the item goes back into the supply chain in a different way. And also, how do you design really great jobs so that you're retaining that workforce and having really great people working in these workshops?
So many kind of diagnosis or pre-maintenance work could be done via the kind of the AI or via kind of the connected service before all these owners come into the workshop, and enables these OEMs and then the aftermarket service providers to pre-diagnose and also to prepare all the required kind of mechanicals or the workshops or the services in before the car owners come to the workshop. So I think that will be make the whole journey and whole process more digital and more convenient. I think in China it's still, I think the maintenance and repair work still need to be done in a workshop, but just the way how customers come to a workshop will be different. There'll probably there will be some kind of a mobile chauffeur or services there to bring your car or EV car to the workshop. I think that make the owners more convenient.
Definitely the mobile workshop is something that we're starting to see more and more in the US. And I think it comes back to that customer desire to just not have to worry about the car. Like it just isn't something they have to bother themselves with. And so you're starting to see, especially some of the simpler repairs happening more and more with mobile workshops and people not having to bring the vehicle in. And I think that sort of bifurcation of repairs based on the complexity will continue to happen. So I think the simpler repairs will more and more happen almost in an invisible way for people, whether that's in their driveway or at their work. And the workshop comes to them and it just happens. And then those more complex repairs, those might start to get more and more centralized, where maybe there's a swap out of a part and it's repaired in a centralized facility, or it happens at a larger workshop. And I think that the AI and predictive diagnoses will be a part of that. You're definitely already starting to see some of that happen, where now with certain components or certain aspects of newer vehicles, it's not just based on a mileage increment, right? You're able to look at usage patterns and do maintenance and do repairs based on that specific vehicle's usage. And I think in the future that will continue to develop. And what I could see happening is really part level intelligence, where the individual components of the vehicle have some awareness on their state of repair, or if they're seeing troubles, and you're able to have much more targeted and much more predicted moments of repair and maintenance. And then the last area with AI is, I think, on the diagnosis itself. We're already doing work in the home repair space of using AI agents to help people both do DIY repairs more easily and be sort of talked through the diagnosis and simple repair process, but even supporting the repair technicians themselves. As I mentioned, there might be newer workers in the workforce who don't have decades of experience doing this, and so the AI technology is an opportunity to really leverage all of the information and data that's out there about how to do these and feed that to some of these newer workers and enable them to take on more complex repairs. I think there's two different directions that this could go or will go. And one is what I was starting to talk about, where sort of repair and maintenance is this invisible experience for the customer. It just happens and they don't have to worry about it. And that's going to take sort of a lot of work in the background to make it this invisible and seamless experience for the customers. But the other piece of it is, having your vehicle maintained or repaired is today one of the few human connections you have with that ecosystem after you buy the vehicle. So whether that's the OEM or the dealers or an independent workshop, that's a very important moment to build brand loyalty, to build customer satisfaction. As the workshop of the future evolves, I think it could become a very important touch point with the customer to build that loyalty and build that engagement with the brand or with the company doing that work.
From the Chinese customer perspective, I think that there will be two angles I can mention. One will be kind of for when we look into the overall aftermarket. Actually, this aftermarket in China start to innovate since 2015, when many private equities or venture capitals put in a lot of kind of money into these sectors to grow the business with more e-commerce, more kind of e-commerce chain stores to more auto stores in China. I think this is not only changing the market structures, but also increases a lot of customers' expectations and service requirements on aftermarket service here in China. So that not only replying to EV, but also to ICE as well. So customers definitely today have a higher expectation on the service quality, service standard in China. And specific to EV, because of the kind of the declining aftermarket, let's say the maintenance touch point or maintenance frequency required, so customer may have to kind of come to offshore less. However, the new generation of these consumers still have high demand of the personalization services here when they have their own car. So that's also bringing to a lot of kind of the car beauty, car wash, or the kind of or those type of work that can attract a lot of customers to come to a workshop.